What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video for the First Descendant today, we are looking at everybody's favorite doormat, I suppose the joke of the First Descendant, namely Jayber. Now, I've made my fair share of fun of this Descendant, but this is the first of a two-part series where this first video will be kind of like a problem statement as to what I see is wrong with this Descendant. And I think it's an important time to have this discussion right now because Jayber is said to be one of the first Descendants that they rework when Season 3 jumps out. And then, of course, because I think that non-attribute Descendants are going to be a lot more valuable once Season 3 drops, especially to solo players, due to the fact that we're going to have a lot more elemental resistances and damage reduction for elements and things like that, which of course is circumvented by having multiple elements in a team or multiple elements on your weapons and on your Descendant. But generally speaking, if you're playing solo, you tend to have the majority of your damage being represented by one element, and in this case non-attribute will not be as affected by these kinds of situations unless for some reason there's also going to be non-attribute defensive shields. I don't know if that's a thing, but I guess we'll know once Season 3 drops. But yes, nonetheless, the point is I think non-attribute Descendants, their stock is about to go up a lot. So what is wrong with Jayber exactly? I think the situation actually is that from a damage perspective, once you fully build him out and everything, it's really not that bad. Look, it's not anything amazing, but it is very comparable to what I would say the middle in terms of like damage. And once you have a bunch of turrets out and everything like that and you're set up and so on, then you're actually able to deal quite a bit of AoE damage. And since they aren't every single Descendant can do AoE, at least he's got that going for him. So if it's not the damage that's the issue, then what really is it? So I think the biggest problem that I have is the fact that his kit feels extremely cumbersome to actually play. He kind of feels like the Descendant that you can do the same as any other mid-level Descendant, but you have to take like 5 extra steps to do it. And in a game where you are constantly grinding the same activities, grinding the same things, grinding the same kills, all of that stuff, because you're either trying to farm up XP for, your Descendant or your weapon, or you're looking for a specific drop or so, you tend to want to be taking the route, of least resistance, right? You want to be going as fast and as efficient as possible, possibly with as few clicks as possible. Again, I don't mean to speak for everybody here, so I'm mostly talking about myself here, but I think there are going to be some players who agree with what I'm saying. And then, of course, there's also going to be some other guys who are saying, dude, you're overthinking it. You're just going into this way too hard. Just press a couple of extra buttons, put your turrets down and go. And if that's the case, if that's how you feel, then fucking power to you. Then you're probably going to enjoy Jayber the way that he is right now. But what I mean by extra steps is like, for example, when you put his turrets down. So first things first, the East of course got a bunch of different Transcendent mods where you can actually make it so that your turrets actually explode and deal more damage and leave damage zones and that sort of thing, which is cool. But I think like the most generic setup for him is the double DPS turret setup, because by default he has one DPS turret, one support turret, and then like his fucking gun, which empowers those turrets. He has a Transcendent mod which lets you replace the one support bot or turret with another assault turret, so another DPS turret, which basically, to me, this is the identity of Jayber. This is what I wanted Jayber to be. I wanted him to be like a fucking tower defense Descendant, basically. And yes, you can accomplish that to a degree with your 2 assault turrets, but the point is, first things first, if you want to put these turrets down, you got to press the skill key twice. Now, again, most people will be like, so it's just really fucking annoying having to do this over and over again as you move from room to room. You gotta press the button to get the fucking blueprint of the turret and then press it again to put it down. I don't know if this is easier or harder on controller, but I can imagine it's equally frustrating, but it's just fucking stupid to me. This is combined with the fact that you can get body blocked by enemies. So if you are taking too long to put those down, like 99% of the fucking enemies in this game run at you. So when they close the gap to you in the time that it takes you to put maybe your second turret down, they can actually body block the blueprint placement of that turret because you cannot press through them. So these two things are just, in my mind, two super easy things to fix from his kit's perspective, right? You just make it so that instead of having to lay the blueprint and then press to deploy it, you just press once and it puts down the turret wherever your cursor is pointing. if your cursor is out of bounds, in other words, too far away from you for the turret to go down, then it just makes an X or whatever, something like that. But when you're in range, it just puts the turret down immediately, and there you go. And then secondly, of course, that you can basically put the turret down through enemies. Two big differences. In my mind, two small changes to make, however, and it will kind of like just make his kit feel a lot more responsive. We have to remember that Jayber's been adjusted a bunch of times before already. This will not be the first time that they've messed with him, but like this developer tends to do with a lot of the Descendants, is they just end up moving some numbers around. They don't generally change a lot of the times how exactly the abilities work and the functionality of them and that sort of thing. They tend to just go like, okay, look, this thing is, people don't like using it. Let's just put another 0 behind the fucking damage and let's go. And this has happened at least twice with Jayber, but damage is not his issue. Damage is not the problem. The problem is the fact that you have this issue with like it just feeling really cumbersome to play. And like I said, feeling that you have to do extra steps just to deal the same amount of damage. Now, one last thing that I could possibly suggest is that you could also, potentially to make the character the Descendant a little bit more interesting to play, would be the fact that different mods would produce different effects in the assault turret. So for example, certain mods could turn like if you stack them towards, I don't know, if you build Jayber towards crit, then perhaps the turrets have a shorter firing range, but they shoot like super fast and they chain, for example. If you build him towards, I don't know, range or something like that, and you basically just build raw damage, then instead of the turrets shooting, they basically become like, like just big AoEs that essentially just fire around them. Now, I know that these might seem like fucking dumb ideas, because yes, if you take his gun out, you shoot the gun at the turrets, then they create turret zones, and those do actually cause the AoEs. But my point is just that for a character that has, with his kit, the possibility of being a lot less one-dimensional than he is right now, it really does seem like a waste. I mean, furthermore, and at the risk of him being like completely fucking OP, you could make it so that the turrets are not placed down in one place at all, but rather that you summon them and they essentially hover around you like flying fucking sentry drones or something like that, and they shoot. This will cut down a lot on like the feeling of having to redeploy everything every time you enter into a new room, and it'll probably make the Descendant feel a lot more responsive to play, and yeah, just kind of like make it a lot cooler. And again, like I said, I understand that the point is that we are dealing with power creep and that sort of thing, and I'm not advocating them, taking Jayber and turning him into the next, Innes, but the point is, as we now know, Innes and Serena are the benchmarks in terms of like what they want to bring Descendants to. So if we take that into consideration, then there's a pretty big river of divide between what the output is from a Jayber versus what the output is from an Innes. And the problem is not going to be solved by making the turrets, which deal X percentage of damage now, deal just, with an added 0 at the end of that. That's not the issue. It's just that, and I've said this like 15 times now, so this will be the last time, it just feels fucking slow and cumbersome to play. I'd like you guys to let me know in the comments below if you think Jayber is fine just the way that he is right now. What would you change in this Descendant? As mentioned, later on in this week, I will drop the build that gets me the most ready with Jayber for Season 3. And then, of course, right at the beginning of Season 3, they will do some changes, and these changes might tweak the build out a little bit. But this is the way how I'm going to start Jayber in Season 3, if anybody's interested, and also interested in fielding Jayber as it starts out there. And then, of course, we can do a follow-up to that in the beginning days of Season 3 and kind of like change a thing here and there to pretty much incorporate whichever changes and how those made him better or worse. God hope not worse. I think he gets to basically be changed one more time, and then if it just doesn't work out, then I guess that's just it. Then Jayber's dead in the water. But yeah, like I said, thank you very much for watching. As always, I appreciate all the support on the videos. Look out for that Jayber build video later in the week, and yes, do let me know what you think about Jayber at the moment right now. See you in the next video, and fucking cheers.